While Santa's helpers were still wearing green, their uniforms looked a little different this year. Dressed in green camouflage, Canadian Armed Forces were knocking on doors and delivering Christmas hampers to families in need on Saturday. Operation Parcel Push is a long-standing tradition for the soldiers of the Fort Garry Horse Army Reserve. And this year, they delivered about 180 hampers filled with food and gifts to homes in Winnipeg's North End. CBC's Gavin Axelrod was there, and he caught up with two soldiers who have participated in Operation Parcel Push for about 20 years.
Captain James Smith.
Major Matthew Bittner.
So today is Operation Parcel Push. We do it annually along with our Soldier Appreciation Dinner. During the morning, we get hampers from the Christmas cheerboard and we deliver them to local houses within the community in our area around our armories. So the process for today is we can only fit so many of these hampers in the vehicles with the troops at one time, so they kind of do a rotational basis. So they'll go deliver the 5 or 6 homes that they have, come back, reload up, go back out, and then anything that they can't deliver because maybe the people aren't home today or they just don't answer the door, they bring them back, then we take them back to the cheerboard. That goes till about roughly around lunchtime. We have lunch, and then we start with more appreciation of the soldiers, and then tonight we have a dinner for them.
What's why is it so important, I guess, for the armed forces to be involved in some of that?
I think it's important for the armed forces to show that we're not just always overseas, but we're also part of the community as well, and we always fight for or participate in community events.
And to add to that, we are Army reservists, so this is our part-time job. Full-time, we are members of the community, so we want to show that we are part of the community, and it's just giving back to where we're from.
What do you think it means to some of these folks to get this delivery in the holiday season?
I think for them, I think it's nice, especially with the world today and how it can be tough for some people to really get through just living day to day with their paychecks. But it's nice that they see that the community in Winnipeg and the Army Reserves are all there to support them. And I think that it's welcoming for them to see that and get that support.
This is one of our fun days, yeah. Normally training is hard work and not the most pleasant environment, but today is all about enjoying the Christmas cheer and getting to the community and then having some fun back with the soldiers.
How do people react when they see soldiers showing up at their door delivering this stuff?
Generally pretty good. Sometimes we're waking people up because we start so early, and they're kind of groggy, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just making breakfast," or having their morning coffee. But generally, it's received very well, especially when it's combined with gift cards or toys for the children that are at the homes, and see that as an early Christmas gift. So it's kind of nice.
What's it like for the kids to see members of the armed forces?
Well, a lot of times the kids are actually like, "Whoa, that's an army soldier knocking on their door," and it's pretty funny. Or sometimes they refer to video games that they play. They're like, "Oh, are you Call of Duty?" It's nothing like that at all. But generally, it's received fairly well.
That was CBC's Gavin Axelrod speaking with Captain James Smith and Major Matthew Bittner. As we've been hearing in the news, at least 15 people have been killed and dozens injured in what Australian police say was a terrorist attack targeting the Jewish community. On Sunday, police say a father and son opened fire at Bondi Beach in Sydney at an event to celebrate the first day of Hanukkah. The 50-year-old father was fatally shot by police, and the 24-year-old son was wounded and is being treated at a hospital. For more on the aftermath, we've reached Michael Kempa. He's an associate professor of criminology at the University of Ottawa. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe.
This shooting has been deemed a terrorist attack. What does that mean?
Well, in Australia, as in Canada, you've got violence that's directed towards a political purpose, and you add the additional layer that they're willfully doing this action in service of a terrorist entity. You are deliberately carrying out violence because you want to further the interests of an entity that the government has defined as a terrorist organization.
When a group of people is so obviously targeted, in this case the Jewish community, what effect does that have on a community's sense of security, even beyond Australia?
Well, it echoes around the world, and intuitively we would know it would have a chilling effect on people's sense of safety, but also through all manner of studies. So polling, interviews with affected communities around the world, we know that it diminishes people's sense of well-being and safety for moving in public space, and their sense that governments and security agencies are capable of keeping them safe. In particular, here in Canada, we've had things like fire bombings of synagogues in the Montreal region and elsewhere, Jewish schools in Toronto and elsewhere. These are supposed to be the very spaces that are the safest in our society, and it's these types of attacks in particular that really have that negative impact on people's sense of safety and well-being.
What are your thoughts on the suspects being related, a father and son?
Well, it lends weight to the Australian concern that this is a terrorist action on the basis that radicalization very often, first and foremost, transmits through family structures. We've seen that here in Canada as well, where we've had duos of fathers and sons carry out attacks using vehicles, for example, to target identifiable members of groups. Secondarily, friend networks and social media. So it's not particularly unusual if it's a terror motivated act of violence to have it be family members acting in concert.
Now, in November, CSIS Director Dan Rogers said violent extremism, quote, persists as one of Canada's most significant national security concerns, unquote. What happens now here in Canada in the wake of this incident?
Well, we go on heightened alert here in Canada, our security and policing agencies, for very good reason. We have very many of the same issues and dynamics in play that led to the violence in Australia. So anti-Semitic hate crimes very much on the rise in Canadian society. The number one group targeted for these forms of crime, of course, being Jewish communities, and number two, Islamic communities. We will be looking at increasing police presence at mass events, religious events over the duration of Hanukkah and through the rest of the Jewish high holidays, and in fact, Muslim celebrations as well. And I would say it's going to be on the periphery of these events. If you think of something like at a private venue or a fenced public park, it's the sidewalks, the roadways in the immediate vicinity of these events that unfortunately where people with very bad intentions can most easily find and target their victims. So police presence there.
There have been targeted attacks in Canada before, and as you say, anti-Semitic attacks have been increasing. How should community groups and authorities respond when it comes to public safety right now, given the start of Hanukkah?
Well, number one, we hope that people wouldn't be so fearful that they would no longer participate in events that are so important to their communities. Number two, we're going to see much more vigilance around these events. So again, I would say to people, it's at that periphery where you're at the greatest risk, sort of congregating in groups outside of venues, outside of fenced areas. If you've got a private venue, perhaps there'll be a private security presence. Life will go on, but people will be much more vigilant, particularly this year.
Lastly here, Michael, I want to talk about some footage that we saw yesterday. It apparently shows a member of the public disarming one of the gunmen. It's garnering a lot of attention online. What's your reaction and key takeaway from that?
Well, I've never seen anything like it. You had an individual, my understanding is he arrived in a taxi, heard gunshots, ran toward the gunshots, liaised with a police officer. They came up with a plan to flank an active shooter. It happens the civilian got to him first, wrestled a large automatic weapon out of an active shooter's hands. I mean, it's extraordinary courage on a level that we can barely imagine. I would just say if this individual was capable of doing that in Australia, certainly citizens right across the board should be capable of confronting the types of anti-Semitic and Islamophobic sentiments that are circulating. If you find it in the workplace, if you find it at your social gatherings or in social media, confront it, because that denormalizes the types of language that leads to the type of violence that we've seen, the tragedy we've seen in Australia.
Thank you for your time this morning, Michael.
Thank you kindly.
Michael Kempa is an associate professor of criminology at the University of Ottawa. Turning to political news, last week Ontario Member of Parliament Michael Mah announced he was leaving the Conservative caucus and joining the Liberals. The move comes just a few weeks after Nova Scotia MP Chris d'Entremont also left the Conservatives to join the government benches. The new additions to the Liberal caucus means Prime Minister Mark Carney is one seat away from a majority government. On Sunday, CBC chief political correspondent Rosemary Barton sat down with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre for a wide-ranging chat. She asked him if the loss of 2 MPs indicates issues with his leadership. Here's that exchange.
It's a problem of Mark Carney's leadership that after Canadians clearly rejected a costly Liberal majority because they knew it would mean higher grocery prices and higher food costs, he is trying to manipulate his way through backroom deals to get that majority.
Floor crossing is allowed. You've benefited from it.
But he's trying to take a majority, a costly majority, that would drive up the cost of living and enrich Liberal elites, of course, but not through democratic means. My message to Mark Carney is that if you want a costly majority government to drive up taxes and deficits, then you have to go to the Canadian people and have them vote for it, not do it by dirty backroom deals.
I mean, I know you don't like it, and we can talk about the merits of floor crossing and whether it should be allowed, but it is allowed. So back to my question, is this a sign of a weakness in your leadership that 2 members of your caucus have left?
No, it's a sign of backroom dealings that will drive up the cost of living. And don't take my word for it, take Mr. Mah's word. This is what he said just a few weeks ago. We are in a shameful situation in this country where over 2 million Canadians are visiting food banks every month. At the end of every month, paychecks are not going far enough. Why is that? I'm quoting.
Yep.
The Liberals want to deflect and blame this solely on the trade deficit. However, there's a simple economic fact. When we create more units of currency and map them into the economy, that is not meaningfully producing more goods and services, we get inflation. As a case in point, in the last 5 years, I'll just finish up his quote. In the last 5 years, grocery prices have risen more than 20%. He blames that on Mark Carney's deficit, and that was only a few weeks ago.
What are you doing now? What are you doing now to make sure other caucus members don't leave? What are you saying to them?
Affordability, affordability, affordability. Canadians cannot afford grocery prices because of Carney's hidden Liberal taxes on food. What unites all Conservatives is the belief that you should be able to have a full bank account, a full fridge, and a full stomach all at the same time.
That was Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre speaking with the CBC's Rosemary Barton on Sunday. There were suggestions in November that Conservative Matt Genereux could also cross the floor, but the Alberta MP instead announced that he would be leaving politics altogether. Genereux hasn't officially resigned, but hasn't voted since his announcement. Hollywood director Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle were found dead yesterday. Police are investigating their deaths as apparent homicides. Reiner was an actor before becoming a prolific director, and his list of movies include This Is Spinal Tap, When Harry Met Sally, and The Princess Bride. Here's Reiner speaking with the CBC's Valerie Pringle in 1987.
Do you think that you're telling people stories and ultimately, good triumphs or love triumphs or being honest triumphs?
I believe those things, I mean, I don't actively set out to make a film that says those things, but I do believe it. I mean, we made Princess Bride. I mean, it's a fairy tale, but it's not really just a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale for adults. There's a satirical edge to it. But what runs through the core of the story of The Princess Bride is true love, and which is a fairy tale notion. But I believe that at the core of any good relationship between a man and a woman is true love, even in living in a complex society of the 80s where relationships are not easy and they're not simple. If a relationship is going to work and have any kind of longevity, there has to be some core of real, true love there, and I believe those things.
Rob Reiner was 78 and his wife Michelle was 68. Police are investigating their deaths as apparent homicides. It's the fourth winter of war and another Christmas at war for people in Ukraine. Shuttle diplomacy is ongoing in world capitals, but the Kremlin shows no signs it wants to end its invasion. Meanwhile, Ukraine continues to build alliances with European leaders in order to survive. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is in Germany today for just that purpose. And for more, we're joined by Paul Goode. He's a professor and McMillan Chair of Russian Studies at Carleton University. Welcome to the show, Paul.
Good morning.
So Zelensky is in Berlin today, meeting European leaders and NATO leaders. What are they talking about?
Well, formally, they're talking about security guarantees, and that includes the question of territorial control. This is something that's been pressed by the United States and by Russia. It includes the proposal to create buffer zones in Donbass that are often termed free economic zones that would not have military forces present. Now, generally, Ukraine has opposed giving up any land that it currently controls. Zelensky has said that he believes the fairest approach to be a stand where we stand kind of an approach. Russia has opposed also giving up any territory. In fact, it claims all of Donbass and has continued to threaten to take it by force if Ukraine is unwilling to withdraw. Now, the biggest change or development happened yesterday. The U.S. and Ukraine met in Berlin for 5 hours. And in the course of those talks, or at least beforehand, Zelensky indicated that Ukraine would be willing to give up on the aspiration of NATO membership if it were able to receive guarantees that Europe, the United States, Canada, Japan, Ukraine's allies would come to its defense in the event that Russia reinvaded. So basically providing an Article 5 style guarantee, but without NATO membership.
How would you describe the shuttle diplomacy by the U.S. aimed at ending the war in Ukraine? How is it going?
Well, it's hard to gauge in part because a lot of what happens behind closed doors. So we know mainly about broad brushstrokes on a number of issues. At the base, negotiations remain stuck on those two key issues of territory and security guarantees. So far, Ukraine is the only party that has demonstrated any willingness to negotiate. Russia has not offered any real concessions. It has been offering side deals to the United States in exchange for a ceasefire, and those side deals include things like lucrative mining and extraction deals in the Arctic. Russia has also recently indicated that it would be willing to remove troops from the buffer zones, from the free economic zones that are proposed for Donbass, but that Russian National Guardsmen and police would remain. So basically that's more semantics than an actual concession. Zelensky has said that part of the problem with the shuttle diplomacy is effectively that the American side has to represent Russia because, Russia's not a party to those negotiations directly with Ukraine. And that means that Ukraine is not just trying to bargain and deal and negotiate with the United States as a mediator, but it's also trying to deal with the United States as a representative of Russian interests. And so that has made for a difficult situation. The added to that is that in terms of domestic politics within Ukraine, any deal that is made with regards to territory through the shuttle diplomacy is something that will have domestic repercussions within Ukraine. So for instance, with the proposal to cede territory, we know that ceding territory is politically unpopular within Ukraine. So Zelensky has suggested that any plan to give up territory would need to be ratified by a referendum or popular vote within Ukraine. And one can imagine that that would easily scuttle any sort of deal that's brought about by way of the shuttle diplomacy. And on top of that, European allies of the United States and Ukraine are unhappy about any territorial concessions because that appears to basically reward Russia for its aggression. And even Republicans in the United States have been breaking with Trump over his approach to negotiating with Russia. So on the one hand, there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of talk, but there's still a lot of distance between the different parties, not just in terms of positions internationally, but also even within their domestic politics.
Paul, before we let you go here, I'm curious, what do we know about both the situation on the battlefront this winter and also civilian life for folks in Ukraine?
Well, there hasn't been a lot of shifts on the battlefront. I mean, there's been a lot of headlines that Russia has been making large advances, but the reality is that Russia has gained less than 1% of Ukraine's territory in 2025, and that's come at the cost of an estimated 900 to 1,200 casualties per day. Ukraine's position has not fundamentally changed. It's currently launching a counteroffensive, or at least it claims to be launching a counteroffensive. But We do know that military aid to Ukraine has been declining, especially since the United States withdrew from providing direct military aid and effectively requiring European allies to purchase that aid from the United States from its stockpiles and to send it onward. So if that aid continues to decline, that could have a knock-on effect, of course, on the battlefield in terms of weakening Ukraine's position. And then in terms of civilian life, throughout Ukraine, the country has been pounded. Russia has been striking Ukraine's energy grid with missile and drone attacks. That makes heating and electricity unreliable. In the winter months, that can be especially dangerous. It's extremely stressful psychologically, 4 years of war, even though Ukrainians are extremely resilient. And life along the front lines is harrowing by all accounts, and that area is slowly being depopulated. Right now, there are maybe 500,000 people that remain within 20 kilometers of the front lines. That's based on UN estimates. And many of those people are extremely vulnerable, elderly and limited mobility. And so the situation is grim, even though Ukraine continues to hold the line.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Paul Goode is a professor and McMillan Chair of Russian Studies at Carleton University. We reached him in Ottawa. Well, if you own a business, this is likely good news. Businesses in Manitoba can now get up to $2,500 to cover the cost of added security or fixing damage. Last week, the Manitoba government announced the $10 million rebate program. Chris Barnier is with Restaurants Canada. He says safety is key to a company being successful.
The only comparable program that we're aware of is one out in BC, and it was about $3,000 per business. But if you had multiple locations, you couldn't apply for multiple locations. This one is to have it be retroactive, to have it be upwards of 75 full-time equivalent workers in each business location, and looking at a number of the things that are eligible, it really is a great program, and it is the best that we see in Canada.
That is Chris Barnier with Restaurants Canada. Curtis Howson is the owner of First Row Collectibles in Winnipeg. His business, which sells things like sports cards and movie memorabilia, has been targeted by thieves multiple times this year. He applied for this new rebate. Curtis and I spoke on Monday.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well. For folks who haven't heard your story, your business has been hit by crime multiple times within this past year. Can you remind us what all happened?
Yeah, so earlier this year we had a break-in. I'm located at 1835 Main Street in Winnipeg here, and Main Street being one of the busiest streets, I didn't think I had anything to worry about anybody coming in through our front window. So the first break-in was at 12:15 a.m. and we had a couple guys smash the window and kind of get their hands in, and were able to open up the door. In that particular break-in, we lost about $10,000 worth of Pokemon cards. The second break-in happened in October, and we had one guy that came in and stole about $500 worth of collectibles. The good news is the Winnipeg police were able to apprehend him, and we didn't get our stuff back, but he was off the streets and dealt with that after that. So there was a happy ending to that. But it's been a couple times that I got that unfortunate call from the Winnipeg police early in the morning that my business was broken into.
So you talked about the cost of the merchandise that was stolen, but what sort of costs were you looking at in terms of repairs from the damage that was done?
Yeah, so the window itself is an older window that needs to be custom made, and so right now we're waiting for it. And the estimate damage on that was about $10,000. So it's crazy, and just right now it's the holiday season, and I have a boarded up window. I have a white board that's on my my shop, and it's not it's not the prettiest thing when you're a customer coming in to buy things. So it's kind of it's really hurt us at this time of year.
Pivoting to the news that we've just heard, what's your reaction to the province's new rebate program for businesses?
Yeah, I'm very grateful for that. That's so awesome. I applied yesterday, and it is first come first serve. So I am hoping to get that email or call that I was accepted. And what I'd like to do with that is I'd like to use it for shutters.
What kind of shutters?
Just something for overnight where I'm able to lock down my windows and lock down my doors and just add some extra security to my building. The back door has been taken care of. We're good with that. but it just seems as though the thieves like to enter through the windows. So I need to protect our business there and protect ourselves at nighttime, and hopefully these shutters will help deter any type of thieves from coming in.
So eligible businesses, if you do get this call, you could get up to $2,500 for your business. Would that be enough to cover this?
Not quite. It's probably going to take. It'll probably take care of about 25% of the cost itself. But I'll take what I can, and I'm grateful for that extra help. But yeah, it's not going to take care of the whole thing. That's for sure.
Does part of you wish it was more?
Part of me does, but I mean, I'm very grateful that the government is helping out at this particular time, because there's so many businesses like mine. If you drive up and down Main Street or Portage Avenue, you see all these boarded up windows here in Winnipeg, and it's not pretty. So I'm really glad that they're helping out right now, because we could all use the help.
What else do you think is needed to help protect businesses from crime? Beyond this rebate, what else could the province do?
Well, I think that I'm seeing it now with a lot of community groups that are doing community walks and kind of taking it into their own hands to kind of help out the community and just kind of patrol things and help a lot of people that are in need right now, because I think that a lot of these break-ins are a direct cause of addictions and the homelessness that are in the city. So I think a lot of these groups that are helping out are really going to do a lot of good. With helping, helping what's going on in the city right now.
Have you heard from any other fellow business owners about how this rebate might help them?
No, I haven't yet, because it's so new. It's been over the last 24 hours, but I'm looking. I'm going to call a few of my friends today and see if they applied and see what they're doing with their $2,500.
Curtis, lastly here, what do you think consumers should be thinking about right now if they hear that a business has either been broken into, or they walk by your business and they see a board in place of the window?
Well, just know that we're open. We're open for business, and there's so many businesses like mine that are really suffering right now. This time during year with the holiday season, if you're going to shop, I really recommend shopping local and helping out, because a lot of businesses like mine have had a really tough year when it comes to theft and just some of the things that have been happening in the city. I love this city. I want to help contribute to making it better, and I think that business here in Winnipeg will help that. If you're in the city and you're looking to shop, please shop local, because we could really use your support.
Appreciate your time, Curtis. Thank you.
Anytime. Take care.
Curtis Howson is the owner of First Row Collectibles. We spoke last week on Friday. As we all know, sleep is very important. It's especially important for children, but not all kids have a comfortable place to rest. That's why Oyate Teepee is helping get more beds to those in need. The Winnipeg-based Furniture Bank has made 250 beds this year with the help of volunteers. The beds are made out of 2x4s and are delivered complete with mattresses, pillows, and bedding. CBC Manitoba community reporter Shannah-Lee Vidal was at a recent bed building session that included some local young people.
We just got the idea that, these kids need beds. We can't have them sleeping on the floor. So we figured, okay, well, let's just start building bed frames for these kids. My name is Greg Georgeson. I'm the executive director of Oyate Teepee. Sleep is so important to, mental well-being, their ability to learn in school. As a whole, there's usually 10 to 12 beds a week go out of this place at minimum. The bed building program started just over 2 years ago. We work with a number of youth groups in the city. Part of our volunteer program when they come here is to be able to get out, meet and mingle with other people, see how workplaces function, and also be able to give them a sense of community.
I think that's gonna be great, because there were times where I had to sleep on couches and the grounds and whatever. It's like a tough situation sometimes people are in, but honestly, I think that they're gonna be super happy receiving beds. I'm 19 years old. My name is Cashin Guimond. I grew up in Winnipeg most of my life. I'm from Seguin, and this is my first time building a bed actually, and I really enjoy it. It makes me feel really happy that I'm helping people, And also I'm helping myself too, be a better person in society.
They work just as each other. Anyone that comes in that doesn't really know kind of leaves with a lot more experience and a little more confidence. My name is Jarrell Dupuis. I'm the workshop manager at Oyate-Tepe. Just about sort of rasping down any of the harsher splinters, and then we sand not to like cylinder smooth, but just enough that we can let the oil sink in.
They could be learning how to measure out material, how to use the larger power saws, how to finish the wood.
Straight into there. Kids especially, there's a lot of people that don't get to sleep on a comfortable bed or a mattress even. So it's good that we give people experience and get the products we make go to a good cause.
So I'm doing this on my own account. No one's telling me to do it. I just figured I'd help people. But if you kind of put yourself in their shoes, wouldn't you want someone to help you?
There's no better job satisfaction than watching some of these kids smile and build beds, and then also watching those beds get delivered to families that so desperately need them.
Yeah, I would love to come back. This is a wonderful place.
Thanks to CBC Manitoba community reporter Shannah-Lee Vidal for bringing us that story. And thanks also to videographers Travis Golby and Rudy Gower. By the way, Oyate-Tepe is in need of donations of new pillows, sheets, and mattresses to accompany the beds that are being built. You can learn more at oyatetepe.com. That's OYATETIPI.com. OYATE, Oyate, TIPI.com. The time is 7:43. You are listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1. At least 15 people were killed yesterday in what Australian authorities are calling an act of anti-Semitic terrorism. Hundreds had gathered at the beach on Sunday for an event called Hanukkah by the Sea, which celebrates the start of Hanukkah. Witnesses say it was until rounds of shots sent people running away from the beach and into nearby streets and parks. One suspected gunman is dead and another is in critical condition after a random civilian managed to wrestle the gun off the attacker and disarm him. Police are still working to find out if others were involved. CBC's Erin Brohman spoke with a local rabbi yesterday. Kliel Rose is spiritual leader of Winnipeg's Eitz Chaim congregation. Here's some of that conversation now.
I found out about this like many others. It was on my news feed, on my phone when I looked at it this morning. And once again, I was in shock. And it just feels like one more blow after another, a barrage of all of these events that continue to happen towards the Jewish community, not just in North America, but now, of course, throughout the world.
This one is I think, one of the worst to happen outside of Israel. What goes through your mind when you consider what happened here?
Yeah, initially I thought of dear friends who live in Sydney. I have a friend who's a rabbi. I have a congregation there. My niece is on a semester abroad in Australia, in Sydney. Unfortunately, it turns out she was in Bali, so she's fine, and I'm still waiting to hear back from this friend who's a rabbi in Sydney. And so immediately I go to those personal connections, and then I think about the gruesome nature of this and the tragedy. I've never been to that part of the world, but it's supposed to be a gorgeous beach celebrating a holiday that's supposed to whose theme is bringing light into the darkest period of the year, the calendar, and so many other hopeful themes behind this particular holiday. And for this to happen, this terrorist attack, once again, to hit the Jewish community feels just devastating and so incredibly tragic.
Mm-hmm. With your own center, with your own synagogue, how is this impacting anything you might be doing?
Of course, it's impacting everything we're doing. My team and I have been on the phone since this morning, back and forth, trying to figure out what is the way that we need to ensure that we have the safest physically facility, and what is the safest on the emotional, spiritual level protection that we can provide to the people who are going to be entering into our sacred space. And I can imagine that for some, they want to stay far away from anything remotely connected to the Jewish community. And on the other hand, my sense is that there'll be many people who want to join us and join with other Jewish institutions that are celebrating this holiday.
Do you feel safe yourself?
Every time I think I've made sense of the continual attacks and the harmful nature in which people speak about the Jewish community, speak about Israel, and I feel like I can breathe again. Here it feels that then here we go again, another attack of this magnitude, another attack which is so gruesome and harms innocent people. And so when you ask me if I personally feel safe, I'm not sure. It's making me really think a lot and think twice about my own personal safety and the safety of my family and the safety of my fellow community members.
I know tonight you'd mentioned that there was going to be an event at Etz Haim for Hanukkah. Is that still going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. That is still going to happen. We have every intention of moving forward. My feeling is that if we cower and cave in, then all we are doing is placating the needs of these virulent anti-Semites. And I don't want to be a part of giving them any kind of victory. And so it seems especially fitting on the holiday of Hanukkah, which celebrates the defeat of a huge empire that was looking to eradicate the Jewish people, and a small group of Jewish military figures was able to really defeat this much larger empire, and to insist that Judaism, like all religions, should be freely expressed in our society. So I think it's incumbent on all of us who are Jews to gather together in some sort of community setting, some kind of fashion, to celebrate Hanukkah.
That was CBC's Erin Brohman speaking with local Rabbi Kliel Rose yesterday. Some community advocates say the city needs to rethink its new encampment regulations. It's been almost a month since Winnipeg's new camping bylaws came into effect. Under these new rules, encampments are banned near schools, daycares, playgrounds, and other public spaces. Last week, an encampment in Mostyn Park in the West Broadway neighborhood was torn down. Since November 17th, the city says it has cleared 10 encampment sites. Outreach workers say finding housing or even temporary shelter for people from these encampments has been a struggle. Last week, Jamil Mahmood, head of Main Street Project, said there just isn't enough housing to go around.
That's not an ideal, recognizing that almost all shelters are full at this time of year, and even our overflow winter pop-up shelter at Siloam is also full every night as well. So it's not a sustainable kind of solution for folks, and it often will lead to a really short-term 1 or 2 nights or 3 nights, and then folks might end up back on the street somewhere else. And so it does create that uncertainty for folks and disconnects them from resources.
That was Jamil Mahmood, the head of Main Street Project, speaking with CBC's Felisha Adam. Those concerns are being echoed by other community organizations. Ren Armstrong leads the West Central Women's Resource Centre. She's been working with Main Street Project, trying to connect people with housing. Welcome to the show, Ren.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So, can you walk us through what happened when the city cleared the Mostyn Park encampment last week?
Well, what happened was MSP and our team from West Central, we worked together to try to use whatever resources that we did have to relocate people into temporary housing. Right now, we don't have any permanent housing for folks. We just have transitional units. So we worked together to relocate those folks who were interested and willing to go into those units. And then the other folks, we just kind of let them know what was going to be happening, and let them know their options and how they can prepare for the city coming in. And then we worked together to try to help those people out. And then when there wasn't really anyone identified anymore that wanted to relocate, or after the word got out, people kind of cleared out of the encampment naturally. So we, MSP had reached out to the city to let them know that there was no one there anymore. And the city went in and cleaned up.
How much time, how much notice are the folks in these encampments getting?
They're not being given much notice at all. We do our best to let them know, but we're not really being given any notice by the city when an official day is that they would like to come in and do the cleanups. So we are kind of just playing it by ear every day. Yeah.
So you mentioned that there's no permanent housing that you can offer to these folks. Do you know if any of them are going to just other encampments?
I would imagine that that's the case. There are some people who are just going to relocate because they don't have any other choice. So yeah, some people are moving farther and farther away from the middle of the city and getting farther and farther away from resources that they do need.
What are your biggest concerns when it comes to this new bylaw?
My biggest concerns are, one, not having enough sustainable housing for people to move into, and people just being pushed around the city until they have nowhere else left to go. And I'm also really concerned about what happens when people do refuse to leave their encampment area. What kind of enforcement is going to be taken on these people because they don't have anywhere else to go. I'm worried about police involvement and things like that. Should things get more escalated?
What concerns do you have? What concerns do you hear directly from these folks?
The same similar concerns that we have. Like, there's not really enough housing options. What happens if they don't want to go into the one place that we have to offer them right now? What are the repercussions against them? Where are they going to go afterwards? We all kind of share a lot of the same concerns.
We've heard from St. Boniface Street Links that they're seeing more people with more of a need to access their services and shelter spaces because of this new bylaw. How strained are your outreach services right now as more encampments are cleared?
Like I mentioned earlier, it's kind of like a race against the clock every day. We have a very small team of 3 people, so we do our best to support when we can. It's been quite the strain, and it's also the strain on us emotionally too, because we're not here to come in and tell people that they don't belong somewhere. We're only here to give them the information that we've been given, that we unfortunately have to work against this new bylaw that has been released. And morally, it's a struggle too, because we don't want to push people and push them out and only show up and give them one option of somewhere they can go. And if they don't take that, then that's too bad. Like, it doesn't sit well with us on our hearts either. So we're doing our best to do this work in a good, person-centered way that still upholds people's human rights without, essentially just clearing people out and telling them that they have nowhere that they belong.
What would you rather see happen here when it comes to this bylaw?
I would rather see the city work with our outreach teams a little bit closer and identify what encampments are more ready for housing and what options we actually do have before they inflict the ban on that area. Because once they put that ban on them, then we are just, like I said, racing against time to try to find somewhere for people to go. The city needs to make sure that we have adequate housing options to give people before they post these bans.
We've heard an idea floated of creating one singular encampment that would provide a organized space that could connect people with housing and supports. What's your response to that? Do you think that could be a beneficial thing here in Winnipeg?
I think that can be beneficial for some people. I can also understand why some folks may not want to be part of that as well, and they should still be able to choose where they feel most comfortable. Like some people feel safer along the riverbank. Some people don't want to be in large group settings like that. So I think it is still an option that would be really good to have for those folks who would be interested in that, because some people would really like to utilize that. And then as outreach workers, that would help us be able to stay in better contact with people, knowing where they are all the time, not having to keep on finding people once they've been relocated. So that on our side would make things a little bit easier as well, and we can continue to follow up with people in that space. But I think that coming from a person-centered lens, that could help some people, and that could also not be for some people, but I think it would be a good resource.
Really appreciate your time this morning, Ren. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
That was Ren Armstrong, team lead with the West Central Women's Resource Centre, Encampment to Housing Transition. Well, as we've been hearing throughout the show this morning, a Hanukkah celebration on Sydney's Bondi Beach came to a tragic end after two gunmen opened fire. At least 15 people were killed in what Australian authorities are calling an act of anti-Semitic terrorism. One gunman, a 50-year-old man, was fatally shot by police. The other shooter, his 24-year-old son, was wounded. The attack occurred as hundreds gathered at the beach for an event called Hanukkah by the Sea to celebrate the start of the 8-day Jewish festival. CBC's Erin Brohman spoke with a local rabbi yesterday who says while this attack won't stop Hanukkah festivities, he still feels unsafe. Kliel Rose is the spiritual leader of Winnipeg's 8 Hayim congregation.
Every time I think I've made sense of the continual attacks and the harmful nature in which people speak about the Jewish community, speak about Israel, and I feel like I can breathe again. Here, it feels that then here we go again, another attack of this magnitude, another attack which is so gruesome and harms innocent people. And so when you ask me if I personally feel safe, I'm not sure. It's making me really think a lot and think twice about my own personal safety and the safety of my family and the safety of my fellow community members.
Joining us now on Zoom is Jeff Lieberman, President and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg. Good morning.
Good morning, Chloe.
Now, I saw you closing your eyes, kind of taking in the words of Kliel Rose, the rabbi of Winnipeg's 8 Hayim congregation. Do you resonate with what you were hearing there?
It's so difficult, being a Jew and a proud Jew whose father was a Holocaust survivor, and all of his family, his 6 brothers and a sister, and both his parents were murdered in the Holocaust, and he passed away a few years ago. He would be shocked to see what's going on around the world now. And to hear what Rabbi Kliel just said just resonates. Our Jewish community is horrified by the massacre that happened yesterday in Australia. And, we stand in solidarity with the Jewish community of Australia. We give our condolences to the families of those that were killed, and we wish those that were injured a speedy recovery. But it's devastating when you hear attack after attack against Jews only because they're Jewish. And the Holocaust ended, in 1945, and to see this happening again is really devastating for our Jewish community.
What have you been hearing from community members?
I've heard from a lot of our community members who the same. They're shocked by what happened. These were people celebrating a festive Jewish holiday, Hanukkah, on the beach and enjoying themselves. And 2 extremists shot at them. our community is hurt. Our community doesn't feel safe, and it's happening. It's happened in many different places around the world. And in England a few months ago at that synagogue, there was an incident in Colorado, in Boulder, Colorado, a few months ago. There's this. We don't feel that our politicians are standing up against anti-Semitism the way they should. It shouldn't take incidents like this for them to come out and have a statement. Last year, 70% of religious crimes were against Jews, only because they're Jews. And Jew hate is rampant, and our politicians and our business leaders and religious leaders need to stand up and say enough is enough, and that we need to ensure the safety of everyone. Certainly in Canada, all Canadians, Jews and everyone else, shouldn't be subject to hate like this.
You mentioned that feeling of safety and how that changes after an event like this, even here in Canada, in Manitoba, in Winnipeg. Is there anything being done or any changes being made when it comes to support and security measures to help people feel safe, especially during this season?
Well, we've had a very good relationship with the Winnipeg Police Service, forever. But after October 7th, when the Hamas terrorists murdered 1,200 innocent Israelis and took hostages, we've had to safeguard ourselves and our community. The police have been there to support us all along the way. Whenever we have events, they're there to make sure that we feel secure. And after this happened yesterday, I had a conversation with our contacts at the police, and there's a number of Hanukkah celebrations this week, and they'll be there to make sure that everything is safe.
You mentioned wanting to see more support from politicians and others in leadership. What would that look like for you?
Well, it looks like the Bill C9 that the Liberals are trying to pass in Ottawa, which will provide a better method for police to arrest those that are spewing hate, as well as for the prosecutors to prosecute. It's bubble legislation so that those that are protesting and spewing hatred at religious institutions or cultural centers, whether they're Jewish centers or synagogues or churches or mosques, we're calling for bubble legislation so that people are protected from this hate. We need our federal, provincial, and municipal governments to step up. Enough is enough. It's time to protect our citizens of Canada. We are all Canadians. We have Canadian values, and we need to make sure that we are all protected.
What do you envision this Hanukkah season being like as we continue into the 8 days, balancing the celebration of the season, but also what happened in Sydney?
Well, there are a number of community Hanukkah events that are going to happen in Winnipeg throughout the week, and it's important that they continue and perhaps even be bolder than they would have been otherwise. We go into this week now with sadness and some despair, but at the end of the day, we need to be proud of our heritage and our tradition, and keep going with those Hanukkah traditions that we've done, and whether that's in a public way or in a private way in people's homes.
Jeff, what's your message that you would like to send to Jewish Manitobans this Hanukkah?
I'd like to tell them that the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg is there to support them. We're doing what we can to work with our politicians and our police to make sure that our community is safe. I want all Jews in Manitoba to celebrate Hanukkah this week. Add an extra candle to mark what happened in Australia. So have an extra candle besides the menorah and light that every day so that we remember what happened and that we cherish the lives that were killed and those that were injured.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Jeff.
Thank you, Chloe.
Jeff Lieberman is the president and CEO of the Jewish Federation of Winnipeg.